There we go. All righty. So that little conversation went on a little longer. So we may end up going over a little tiny bit. All right. So this week we start on a new one of the yamas and niyams. This is the last yama. So there's 5 yamas. So we've gone through ahimsa, satya, steya, brahmacharya, and now we're doing aparigraha, which is non-possessiveness. And it can also be interpreted as non-attachment, non-greed, non-clinging, non-grasping, non-coveting. So you think of non-possessiveness, those are some of the nons that you should be thinking of. It's easier if you just simply think of it as just letting go. Aparigraha asks us to enjoy life to its fullest, and yet always be able to drop everything and turn towards, to be able to run into the, as she says, run into the waiting arms of the divine. We aren't monks or nuns or sadhus who've taken vows of poverty and renounced all earthly possessions. But at the same time, we want to know, how do we stay immersed in the world and go on loving and living fully without becoming attached to things? And I always love how it seems that every time I'm talking on something new here, I'm still reading the Bhagavad Gita, and it seems like what we're going to talk about here is everything I'm reading in the Bhagavad Gita. It's pretty interesting. The one thing that we know of is that things always change in life, no matter what. It's when we don't let them change or move on. They begin to disappoint us, and we become discontent when we try to cling to them. Think about how hard it can be for people to change when their kids go from being at home all the time or whatnot, and then moving away and going to college, for example, or when you have a home that you've lived in that you've grown super attached to, and then you have to move and leave that space and all the people that you know in that place. These big changes. The Parigraha invites us to let go rather than being attached all the time, packing lightly for our journey through life while caring deeply about everything that happens to us and enjoying it fully. We need to trust life just like we trust the breath. We need to be able to take in all the nourishment and then be able to let it all go, trusting that there's going to be more nourishment of the breath just coming back in. So just, it's going to come in, and if we let those things go, they're going to come back in again. It's a really hard one for people to do, including myself. There are so many different ways that we're nourished in life around us. We find our nourishment in our homes, which I'm very attached to my home, to work, to relationships, even to our routines. And that's all fine and good until we get too attached to these things, often unconsciously. An easy one that's a thing that we find that we love so much is coffee. And nobody thinks that much about their coffee until they can't have their coffee in the morning. And then coffee has become such a huge part of their routine. They drink enough of it that if they don't have it, they get a headache, they talk about it, they miss it. That's just a really easy example of one of those things that's a small routine in life that's super hard to let go of. We often then, when we lose our routines or a sense of our home, in my case it's been the constant cleaning and purging of everything because of my allergies, and trying to clean up allergens in the house. It's hard to let those things that we cling to go. And so then we get, but when we are possessive, we have a lot of expectations or opinions or criticisms or disappointments. And when we're clinging to things and feeling that way, it's because we have forgotten to just trust life and to exhale and just to let those things go. We just need to be able to trust that things will come and things will go, and everything will always be fine and taken care of. So, an example that Deb gave with Yogi Raj. Yogi Raj is mentioned a lot in that book, The Yamas and the Niyamas. And he's actually somebody that I never was blessed to meet. He died, but people in my circle were friends with him. A friend of mine, it was her husband. But just in case you're wondering why his name comes up all the time, it's because Deb studied with him for many years. So what he said to her was, it's okay if you love to play the grand piano, but when it's time to eat, you don't want to carry the piano to the dining room. Why should you want all that weight on your shoulders? And I love that description, that it's okay to love something, to appreciate it, to enjoy it, but you need to be able to put it down when it's time and take up something new without clinging to the past or to clinging to that one thing. One thing that we're sure of in life is that everything changes, nothing stays the same. And Aparigraha's realm is impermanence, just that constant shifting and changing. And that can be very challenging to people who like things to stay the same. One more thing about that is, for me, for example, many years ago, I used to like to travel and go out and adventure and explore. Then somehow, when I moved up here, at first I was very appreciative of living up here in the beauty. And it was like, oh, why would I want to leave? And then it got really hard for me to leave and travel, like literally very discombobulating. If I went down to Illinois to see my parents, going anywhere, traveling overnight became super hard for me because I was attached to my routine and was not attached to leaving. But what happened is, when I became possessive of what made me happy to be around, my world went from being large to being very small. And then I became more miserable to step out of my box. But then I became trapped in the thing that I thought, what I was clinging to that gave me joy. One of the best gifts of going through all the yoga training was that I had to step out of my comfort zone like that again. It forced me to start traveling. And it forced me to start traveling intensely. I had to be gone in a stranger's house once a month, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I had to drive and get home late. And then I had to get up really early the next morning and go to work. And by throwing myself into situations that made me very uncomfortable, that was out of this routine that I had become so attached to and clung to, by just doing it in these small ways, my world grew again and it opened back up. And now I see how great it is, because it's just really not hard for me to kind of drop everything and throw stuff together and pick up and take off again, which has brought me so much more joy because I'm not attached to things being the same. And it's also given me an ease in my travel, because while I know I can seem a little well, maybe you don't know me well enough to know I can be a little bit uptight about certain types of things around me because I do cling to my routine. The reality is, when I get thrown into that situation again, all that just kind of goes away. And I just slide along, trusting with that breath, like breath will come, breath will go. And so it has made traveling one of the kind of more easy, not very stressful things for me to do now. So that's an example of how that worked. And now, if you'd like to come down to your mat, we'll get started. Okay. All right. So, if you would please just lie along in your mat. And do a soma scan. Starting up from the top of your head, down through your neck and your shoulders, through your lower back, into the hips, legs, all the way down into your feet. And just allow the attention to run up and down through the body in this way. Really sensing any areas of discomfort, tightness. Notice what's asking you to pay attention. See if there's any little shift that you can make in your body. Maybe make it feel a little bit better. And then with a nice, long, deep exhalation, let's try to squeeze as much air out of the body as we can. And allowing those muscles down low in the abdomen to help us out. Let's start inhaling with that lower belly rising, allowing that breath to come in nice and wide into the rib cage and come all the way up. And remember to try, if you can, to feel how the lungs themselves are above the clavicles and see if you can pull all the air up into there as well, allowing that to really expand. And then starting from the very top, the breath releases and the rib cage contracts and comes down, and that width in the lower rib cage relaxes, and then the belly relaxes. Just repeating this long, slow, wide, and tall, deep inhalation. Long, slow exhalation. Notice in your body if it's easy or challenging to bring that breath above the collarbones. And then if you would, please bring the soles of your feet onto the mat with the knees a hip width apart. An easy resting pose. Checking that weight distribution between the heels and the balls of the feet. Making sure that that weight is equally distributed, and if it's not, just slightly adjust the position of the feet. Maybe move them in a little bit closer or a little bit further away. From the bum And then just begin from that position to do some arches and flattens. Allowing those hips to roll forward. So the tailbone comes down towards the mat. With that long, slow release. And then rolling the hips the opposite way so that the bum itself lifts up a little bit off the ground. And then slow release. And rolling in the opposite direction. If you'd like to, allow those shoulders to join into the movement. So as you go into the arch, the back, so the shoulders come down towards the mat. And as you flatten, the shoulders float up towards the sky, creating this little C curve in the front of the body. And then let's slide each leg long. Feet are about a hip width apart. And we're going to do some leg inversions and eversions. So we want to have our feet in what I call the neutral position because it's not dropped out to the outside nor dropped in towards the inside. We want the toes to point upright towards the sky. And we really want to let the dropping of the leg be very slow so that we can go working in those muscles with deep control, allowing them to release. Just allow that right foot to begin to roll towards the right, as if you're dropping it towards the right edge of your mat. And try to notice the bone in the hip socket and the movement of that bone in the hip socket. You can allow it then to roll internally at your own pace. And when you're ready, move on to the other foot, rolling that left foot externally and then internally, alternating. As you're paying attention to the movement of the leg up in the socket, that gentle rolling motion. Also notice how it feels for that foot to be rotating on the heel. Sensation of the bone rolling on the ground. So first you'll be looking internally. for the experience of the movement of the leg and the hip socket, interoception, and then you'll use proprioception to feel the movement of the heel on the floor and how the foot is floating in space. Also pay attention if maybe one foot is rolling away further than the other, out towards the edge of the mat. Notice if one foot is possibly dropping in towards the other further. Just curious about it all. Then finish the set that you're on. And when you complete it with the left leg, let's bring your knees back up towards your chest and give yourself a little hug around the legs and roll that back out. And then if you're able to, roll over on your right side, nice and curled up. Then we're going to push ourselves back up into a seated position. Now, in this position, what we're going to do, I'll show you first. We are going to do a yin butterfly. We're going to hold it for 3 minutes. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable. Now, we're going to be in a position like so, okay? Now, if I'm sitting here like this, I feel the sacrum, the back of my pelvis back here tipping backwards, okay? Now I can actually move my sit bones forward so that I tip forward, okay? But if you have to think about that too much, you'll want to prop your bum up just a little bit with the blanket so that it helps you tip forward. Just a bit. So you're going to want your feet to be approximately a foot away when they're drawn forward, but you need to just move your feet back and forth to decide what works best for you. Now, usually when I come forward, some of my knees drop down a bit, but under your knees, we don't want them necessarily just dangling out in space. So under your knees, you can take a couple of pillows or a bolster and prop your knees up. I'm going to take that out from under my bum because that doesn't work as well for me. So find that sweet spot. And don't be surprised if maybe your feet come in closer to your body than you were expecting once you get settled in and propped. Just let your body be where it needs to be. It might feel better for you to have them further forward though. Find that spot. And what we're going to do is you can either just sit here straight upright with your legs open, or if you're able to fold forward at all, then what we would do is take a nice deep breath. And as you exhale, you fold forward in your body until you find your edge. That spot where any more further would be too much. Know that we're going to hold this for 3 minutes. If you get into it and it becomes too much, feel free to back off. So before we actually start timing it for 3 minutes, make any adjustments that you need so you can stay there. Once you're folded forward with a nice straight spine, if you're folding forward, you might be staying straight upright. If you're folding forward, once you get into that position, then you can allow the body to curl forward more so that you're hanging, you're rolled down more. So let's begin. Just notice any sensations. Be curious about them. See if you can direct your breath a bit towards those spots. If your body feels like it releases a lot, you can tell. If you can tell that, maybe there's a way you could go slightly then deeper into it. If it becomes too much or too overwhelming, you can back off a bit. We're about 2 minutes in, maybe a little more. If your body's asking you to come out, please gently do so. And then just gently lift that body back up that's folded forward. And release one leg and the other. And just do what you need to do. Allow the body to release from that. Then we're going to go back onto our backs on the mat. So bring your feet onto the mat again with the knees in the air, an easy resting pose again. I'm going to ask that you press down through the feet, pushing all the weight into it so you feel your bum start to come up, and then release and let that go. Not actually really lifting your bum off the ground, but just pressing in to engage the muscles and feeling it rise. Let's do that again. Let it come back down. let's bring our arms nice and wide out to the sides. Now, if having the arms in an actual T is too much for you, if that just feels like you're pushing your body harder than it wants to go ahead and just lift them up and out just as far as is comfortable. But if you can bring them up into the T, that would be great. Now let's just start with the right palm open to the sky, the left palm down on the ground. And then let's just rotate the direction of the palm so the left palm is up and the right palm is down. Right palm up, left palm down. And then allow this movement to grow so that you're feeling that forearm included with the movement of the palm. And then so you're feeling the whole upper arm included in that movement. And then the shoulders themselves get involved so that it really becomes the movement of the entire arm in the shoulder socket. And then you'll begin to notice as you pay attention to this rolling movement that when the palm turns down and the forearm rolls with it, the front of that shoulder will float up towards the sky. And the palm that's open to the sky with the forearm open to the sky, that shoulder comes down a bit towards the floor. So as much as you can, if you're able to, assist in that movement so that you can possibly really allow those shoulders to be rolling as well as the arms are rolling, and helping those shoulders to lift higher to the sky when the palm is down, and really feeling the floor below the back of the shoulder and the palm is open to the sky. Sort of feels like pedaling a bicycle. One shoulder's up, one shoulder's down. And they meet about halfway in between. And you can let the arms grow quiet. They can stay out to the side, or if you want to give them a little break, you can bring them in closer to the body or rest them on the belly. And draw the attention down to the legs now. So while we're in easy resting pose, allow both of those knees to drop towards the left. Getting a twist in that lower spine, that right hip comes up off the ground. And pause there. And then allow those knees to swing up and roll over and drop over to the other side. Again, feeling that opposite cheek, bum cheek come up off the ground, feeling that twist in the spine. Allowing those knees to roll back and forth. Maybe taking a little pause on the side if the body's asking for it. It's not necessary. I'd like to ask you to try for fun next time the knees drop in one direction to actually push a little further with the leg that's on top through the foot, on the inside of the foot. You're going to get a little more engagement down through the thigh, through the front of the body. Just see how that feels on both sides once. Decide if maybe it feels good to do or not. Feels like I'm getting a little more stretch when I do that. Kind of like wake up in the morning and stretch your body. It should feel really good. So the next time the knees come upright, just allow them to stay there. And then once again, bring the hands down onto the floor and slide them up as high as they can go, up to a T, no further. So find the spot that's right for your body. Right palm up, left palm down. Roll your head over towards the right so that if your eyes were open, you'd be gazing at the palm that's open to the sky. But if you can, allow your eyes to be closed. And we're going to try to coordinate the movement as much as we can so that maybe both thumbs and the nose all end up in the air at the same time. Maybe they don't, but that might be our little goal if we can. Let's roll the arms so that the right palm's down and the left palm's up as we coordinate a roll of the head so that the head rolls to the left and is gazing at that left palm up. Back and forth. All right. Let's all get back into the position with the right palm up, left palm down. Let's turn our head towards the right palm open to the sky. And then let's drop our knees in the opposite direction towards the left, feeling that left bum cheek come up off the ground and that twist in the spine. And let's coordinate all these movements so that the arms are rolling, so the left palm will be up, the right palm will be down, and the knees will come up and drop over to the right. So rolling the arms, right down. Left palm is up. Our head is facing the left palm and the knees are dropped to the right. Let's just roll in and out through the body, switching sides. And then when you finish the set that you're on, so that your head lands to the left of the knees to the right, at that point in time, just bring your knees up to your chest again. Give yourself a hug around the knees and roll that back out. Allow the legs to grow nice and long for just a moment. Notice how the body feels, any shifts or changes from the first long soma scan. And then bring your left foot onto the floor again, left knee up in the air, right leg stays long. press through the left foot and the right knee, pushing that left hip up off the ground and using that to roll the whole pelvis over onto the side so that you roll onto the side of your body. And then keep going on over and come up to a standing position. All right. So in our standing position, I would like it if we could first try to find a nice solid mountain position. So we want to really keep in mind that we don't want that back arched and be kind of leaning forward, feeling that curve in the spine, nor do we want to have the opposite motion with the hips so that we're kind of curled forward. We want to really land in our feet. Feet are about a hip width apart, coming straight down from the hip sockets. We want to feel like our hips are in this more neutral position. So if we actually could, if our arms came straight down, they'd be coming down and touching right about the ankles. We don't want to lock our knees. That's what locked knees look like. We want those knees to be soft. Don't want to lock them like I do. From this position first, let's start doing a small forward fold. And we're not going to fold very far. We're just going to go a tiny bit down forward and come back up. I'm going to ask that you pay attention to your sit bones back here in the bum, noticing how they spread apart a bit as you come forward and how they come back together when you stand up. Slightly move away forward, come together when you stand up. All right, so if you'd like to take this further, you can inhale when you come up. And as you fold forward, really remembering about this crease right here in the body, as you exhale the body forward, you want to try to keep that back nice and long. Keep that head in neutral. Don't lift the chin up to look across the room. Fold that body forward, remembering to keep a little softness in the back of the legs. The hands can even slide down the legs for a little bit of support there. When you find that golden spot where you feel that you can't hold your back straight anymore, then you can round the back down. Go farther down if you want. Towards the floor. And then glide those hands back up the legs, bringing the back out to straight, and then coming back upright. Let's do that again. Holding at the crease, keeping that spine long and in alignment just as far as you can down. Not locking the knees, and then allowing the body to roll into that forward fold, pausing at the bottom of the fold, and then coming back up. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do that metronome again. So grab a chair. You can use a wall if you don't have a chair. I just feel like a chair is a little more solid for me, a little steadier. So you could do it like this with a wall next to you. How we're going to do this. The wall you may need to, the chair you may need to adjust the position of. So when we stand here, The metronome. Again, we want to be in that really good mountain position. We're thinking of that forward fold with our body, but this time we're only going to be folding on one side of the body, and the other side of the body is going to stay straight. So let's start with our right leg rooted into the ground. We can use the right hand for support and put the left hand on the thigh. There's going to be a slight softness in the right leg and a slight softness in that left leg so that we're not locked into position. So we're going to inhale as we come up, and as we exhale, we're going to keep that line in our body, and we're going to fold forward just as far as we can. Inhaling, coming back upright, and exhaling, folding backwards. So while I feel sturdier having the chair in front of me, you will probably have more ease in range of motion if the hand was on the wall or a windowsill. Just work with what's right with you. So remember, we're going to inhale as we come up, and then exhale anytime we tip the body backwards or forwards. And then switch legs. Right hand on right thigh, left hand using the chair for support. Starting with an inhale upright, exhale. Folding the body forward. Inhale, coming back upright. Exhale, bending the body backwards, back and forth. And then hear that. Okay, now you can, if you have a chair, if the chair is in your way, you can move the chair for now, keep it close by because we're going to need it again, or possibly using your wall. But if you have a mat, you want to come a little bit more to the front of your mat. If you don't have a mat, that's perfectly fine, but you don't want to be on a slick surface because your feet might slide here, okay? So let's start. We're going to work on warrior positions. So let's start first by just stepping back with our right foot. Well, let's start with our mountain first. So find that mountain pose first with the feet partially apart. And then step backwards with that right leg. Remembering that we want to keep that pelvis in neutral. So if it's tipping forward so that the bum's coming back like that, you want to bring it up. You want to tuck it back in. So the best way to find that perfect spot is to go in and out of this a few times. And then find that spot to you where you can feel stable, strong, and steady. It should probably be the other way for you. Stable, strong, and steady. And then bend that left knee so it's over the ankle. And check your position. And then think about your arms and play with your arms. Traditionally in Warrior One, we bring the arms up over top of the head, possibly even turning the head up to look at the sky. You may prefer to have prayer arms with the hands folded together in front of the chest, or surrender arms, cactus arms, back like this. Find what feels good for you. Let's step out of that. And let's come back in. Go in and out as you need to. Let's try to hold it for a bit. And then let's find our mountain again. And this time we'll have the left leg step back till we find that perfect spot. Remembering the position of the hips. Have those rings of Saturn, they should not be tipping, they should be nice and neutral. Bending that right knee over the ankle. And then coming into your favorite arm position. Remembering that if you need to step out and then go it back into the position, please do so. And then let's come back up into our mountain. Now this time when we step with that right leg back, you might want to step the right foot out an inch or two farther because we're going to rotate that right foot a little bit externally from the body because we're going to go into warrior two. So again, find that stance where you're able to keep that pelvis neutral. Step that foot out. And then this is the really challenging part. You need to listen to your body. Really feel how the heels are connecting into the ground. Bend that left knee over the ankles. And then allow the entire pelvis to turn. We don't want it to be a twist in the upper body. We want that spine to be even, and we want to turn the whole body until just as far as we can. Now, again, the arm positions for this are coming out to the side. One arm pointing forward, one arm pointing back. Or in prayer position, or in surrender arms. But you should feel steady and stable. If you need to step out and come back into it, you can feel free to do so. But the most important thing is you're finding this in your body. When that back foot steps out, I can force my body to completely turn. But right here, my knee starts to turn in. My knee starts to turn in. It feels too much of a pull here. I'm going out of alignment. I want to be able to keep my body feeling at ease. So I'm not straightforward like you see in pictures. I'm a little at an angle because that's where my body is truly in alignment. Now, if you're having the legs long, you can look over that front hand. I like to think of this as like a bow, if you have a bow and arrow. And then step out of that position. Coming back into your mountain, maybe a little wider again. This time we're going to step that left leg back. Oops, wasn't right. Just again, find that position in your body where you can be steady and stable. Ground your feet into the ground. Ground your feet into the ground. Then bend your knee over the ankle. The back left foot turns out some. Notice as you turn your body, this side of the body will probably be different than the other one was. So for me, I'm not rotated nearly as far as I was before, but that's the truth of my body. And if I stay in that and honor that, it's going to be able to release there more easily in the long run. Come back out. And then our mudra this time, because we're talking about non-possessiveness, letting go. It's the Ganesha mudra. So coming back into mountain, we're just going to do this one standing up. You want the right palm facing your chest, the left palm facing forward, okay? Ganesha is that Hindu god that they have with the elephant head and the elephant nose. And he's known as the obstacle breaker. He's the one that people call upon when they have a lot of problems going on at life, or if they have a challenge ahead of them and they're trying to work through the challenge. It's Ganesha that they call on. In India, in the buses, most of the buses have a big Ganesha on the front of them to help them with their driving. Kind of interesting. So you want to grab your hands right along here, and you want to actually have tension between them. So it feels almost like an isometric exercise when you're engaged in your right. Now, mantras are certain chants that they have done for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, which I believe just has a little bit of energy then connected to it, no matter what. The chant that goes along, the most common one that's done to Ganesha, that's done with this mudra, if you choose to use the mantra with it, is Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And I'm just going to chant that for us for a little bit as we stand here and hold it. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. 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 And you can release your arms. And then I would invite you to come back down onto the mat, get anything you need to be comfy for our final relaxation. We're still going to work with the 31-point practice. So if you want to have a pillow under your head, great. I personally, when I'm lying long for final relaxation, I actually like a blanket tucked under my bum and my head just on the ground. Just a little bit of height there. If you'd like to be in constructive resting pose, you may. And remember, we're going to try to keep our attention fixed on each of these points for a bit, trying to really keep our concentration on that spot. If you can, visualizing a little bit of light there. Center between the eyebrows, base of the throat, right shoulder joint, right elbow joint, right wrist joint, tip of the right thumb, tip of the right index finger, tip of the right second finger, tip of the right third finger, Tip of the right small finger, right wrist joint, right elbow joint, right shoulder joint, base of the throat, left shoulder joint, left elbow joint, left wrist joint, tip of the left thumb, tip of the left index finger, tip of the left second finger, tip of the left third finger, tip of the left small finger, left wrist joint, left elbow joint, left shoulder joint, base of the throat, heart center, center of the right breast, heart center, center of the left breast, heart center. Wiggling your fingers and your toes, rolling the hands on the wrists and the feet and the ankles. Allowing your body to move however it needs to. And hugging your knees back up to the chest. And rolling that back out. Allow the arms and legs to stretch nice and long again, any direction that you wish. And once again, hugging the knees to the chest. And if you're able to do so, rolling over onto the left side of the body. And taking a few breaths here. And pushing yourself back upright into a seated position. Just placing the hands on the knees for a moment. We'll just sit in silence here for a bit. May all beings find happiness. May all be free of disease. May all see what is auspicious, and may no one suffer. May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed, and may you be a source of healing for all beings. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And thanks for practicing today.